Okay. Let's see, where do I want to start? I want to start with the idea of, just continuing to layer in ideas that you all can take with you, bring back to your organizations to continue to make your group stronger. And so today, for this last hour or so, we're going to move to a final topic around understanding and navigating change. It's been a theme you've heard about it all day, right? How is the youth sports landscape changing? How are we a part of that change and taking advantage of it? Obviously, youth sports has changed dramatically over the last 25 years. That pace of change is going to continue to accelerate as technological, societal, industrial shifts continue to take place. The goal of these last few sessions is to make us think about what's driving those changes, think about who's driving those changes and the implications that they can have, and the opportunities it presents to you all as leaders. So join me in welcoming our moderator for this next panel, titled Changing Models of Youth Sports. So Jason Sachs, the president of Positive Coaching Alliance, is going to be moderating this session for us. Now he's a fancy big-time president now, but I knew him way back when. I met him like 10, 12 years ago when he was working in Chicago, and he actually hired me as a PCA trainer. So Positive Coaching Alliance, I'm very familiar with. Thank you, Jason, where are you, for your coaching then and now. The stage is yours, my friend.
Thank you. It's great to be here. We're going to have a great conversation. We want to get right into it to make sure we have enough time to cover these topics. So I am going to just call Adam, Justin, and Erika up to the stage. And through our questions, you'll get to learn more about their day-to-day and their background. And obviously, their bios are in the app. But I want to welcome Erika, Adam, and Justin to the stage here. So a round of applause for our panelists. No, you're good. So really what we want to talk about here is the changing models of youth sports. And I want to frame the conversation before we start just around the fact that the reason that we are all here, and I think the reason why we got into youth sports is we know that when youth sports is done right, there are endless great outcomes that happen for our youth, right? But as things have changed, and if you've been in sessions throughout the day, you've heard from great speakers about, like this isn't the youth sports landscape of 25 years ago when we grew up and when we were playing, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we also need to, evolve with those changing models. But I want to really frame that with, as we're evolving with those different models, we're still keeping the youth at the center of that and making sure that in the long run, if this isn't a good experience for the kids involved in sports, then we're wasting that opportunity. So we're going to jump right in to the conversation, and I want to give Adam, Justin, and Erika an opportunity to talk about the different organizations that they lead in youth sports, and maybe if you can just give a quick overview of what your organization does and the scale and the reach that you're looking to have. And Erika, we'll start with you, especially with the new opening of the Chelsea Piers location in Brooklyn.
Sure. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes? Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks, Jason. I am the general manager of Chelsea Piers Fieldhouse Brooklyn. Chelsea Piers Complex overall has a flagship location in our Chelsea location, about 80,000 square feet. Brooklyn is 60,000, and our Stamford, Connecticut location, a behemoth of a venue, 200,000. We do both recreational, competitive, and travel. Soccer, gymnastics, swimming, lacrosse, basketball, you name it. So we have about 12,000 kids per year that we see in our programs.
Awesome, great. Adam.
My name is Adam Geisler. I am the co-founder of Youth Athletes United. I am probably the best, probably C+, B- athlete in the room. And really for me, what I'm really passionate is I found an opportunity to do well and do good. So Youth Athletes United, we own 3 youth sports franchise platforms. The one that maybe a lot of you may know here is Super Soccer Stars. Many of you have probably had children that went through it. And really what we want to do is create this space where every kid can be an athlete and have fun while learning the fundamentals of sport. That's our vision, that's our mission, and in doing that, we do it through franchise businesses. So we franchise Soccer Stars now. We have Amazing Athletes, which is a franchise business as well, and then TGA, which is tennis, golf, and athletics. So 3 different franchise businesses, really to scale and give franchise owners an opportunity to impact these kids positively through sports.
Awesome. Justin with MLS Next.
Perfect. Hello? Yeah. All right, perfect. So my name is Justin Bokmeyer. I'm the general manager of MLS Next. MLS Next is the elite youth development environment for Major League Soccer, made up of 143 clubs across 34 states and 3 Canadian provinces. U13 to U19, 6 different age groups, about 677 teams among those age groups, 15,000 players. So we create a platform that is really looking at creating these rich talent development environments for the next generation of men's soccer stars for the country.
Yeah. And Justin, we're going to go right back to you as we think about how, you've been at MLS Next for about a year now, a little over a year. And so, talk about the changes, as we're talking about changing models of youth sports, talk about the changes that you've seen at MLS Next over the last couple of years and since you've been there, and the reason for those types of changes.
Yeah, absolutely. So MLS Next was born out of the pandemic in 2020. Formerly comes from the U.S. Soccer Development Academy. One thing that really drew me to this is the amazing work that people are doing in this area to affect, young men and women's lives, and to be able to help lead that, shape that, really drew me to that. So over the past 3 years, it's grown by at least 5,000 players across different states. A big part of it is more access than ever. So trying to find ways to have more players in the system longer. And I think that's all of our goals and what we've talked about is how do we do that? And so implemented, new DEI policies, expansion, just more rigorous standards to ensure that we're doing the right things to create these, safe and inclusive environments for these players.
Great. Adam, how about you?
Yeah, so what I would say is there's an epidemic going on that a lot of us are a part of in a good way, and that is kids are just not as active in sports the way they used to be, right? And COVID, we know a lot of kids got connected to their digital devices. And so what do you do about it, right? Do you try to compete with it or meet the kids where they are, right? And so we, being that first sport experience, we've got to bring fun and we've got to bring entertainment, right? It's got to be engaging. And so we've really seen this changing landscape is for us to do that, we want to be the leaders in that, right? So how do you be the leaders in that? Well, you have to have scale. So that's why franchising is a lot of what we'll talk about. And then also, how do you train all those coaches, all those people to bring it, right? And so when your first sport experience, a lot of times, we actually don't want a soccer coach. We actually like actors, or we like educators, people that can meet the kids where they are, because when they have that first soccer class, first sport class, first golf class, if it's good, they're coming back. If it's bad, I did soccer. I'm done, right? I did it once. Like the coach, I didn't have a good experience. So we have such a big responsibility and opportunity. And so there's a lot of tech-enabled stuff that we'll talk about in a few minutes. But that's a lot of what we focus on is how do we meet the kids where they are and bring fun and entertainment so we can have that positive experience. So by the time they get to 6, 7 years old and they're making an intentional decision, I want to play basketball or soccer or these other sports, we've let them try everything in a real positive manner.
Great. Erika?
Yeah, that was interesting to hear both of those responses. I mean, Chelsea Piers has been, some might say, operating in a vacuum in some ways. It's a huge indoor facility at both locations in Stamford and in Chelsea. We hire great coaches, we develop great coaches, and we've had kids stay with us from 3 years of age all the way before they're about to go to college. During COVID, that was such a huge just turning point for us in so many ways. It made us look ourselves in the mirror and say, is competitive sports the only path? Is what we're doing the right way and the only way? And especially with the opening of a location in Brooklyn just this past June, it allowed us to ask ourselves that question again. Who are we? What do we want to be? And we very much still maintained a lot of that 25-year-old brand of doing the pathway that I think was just described as well, starting very young and developing through rec and into competitive across all sports. But we developed a phrase called whole athlete. And I think that came out of a lot of conversations that we've had with parents, with community boards in the area. We wouldn't have opened Brooklyn without speaking with the community board first. And Positive Coaching Alliance, to be very honest, and really understanding, this wasn't just a drop-off activity anymore. We had parents who are working remotely now staying to watch the practice, staying to watch the class, asking those questions. Former athletes that are now our parents as well. I know how to play soccer, that's not soccer. Or my kid is good enough to maybe be in the next class, right? And it allowed us to just engage so differently, and I think much more authentically. Yeah. And that's where we are today. So the whole
Great.
athlete of the child is very much what we're focusing on.
Love that.
Yeah.
As we think many people in the audience here have been in an organization where it started with a couple teams and then they go to multiple locations and facilities and you continue to grow. I want each of you to talk about, like, scaling is exciting, right? Like PCA, we grew from one location to 18 chapters over. It's exciting, but it's also really difficult to make sure that you keep control over the culture, the brand, the quality. So what are the specific things that you think about when you're trying to scale like that? And Justin, maybe we'll start with MLS Next. How do you think about that with all the programs across the country?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first is make sure we're collaborating with the right clubs, and that's a really important part. The collaborative approach of MLS Next with the clubs is critical, and one that's so important to me is the relationships with the leaders at the clubs, learning from them, listening to them, understanding, and then seeing what trends, how that applies to everywhere, because something that happens in the Northeast is not the same as the Southwest. And then I'll say the other part is it absolutely comes down to people, and investing and collaborating with the right people. And I'll talk about a little more of my background, but people is the most important thing. Always will be. There's no question, even in this age of tech. But collaborating with the right people, and so ensuring that the clubs, have the right philosophy, they're doing the right things around the environment, and it's holding them to those standards. And that's the way that we can grow, expand across different states. Is looking at that and evaluating that.
Yeah. Adam, what are some specific things you think about?
Yeah, so I think for us, when we talk about scale, I'm not the founder of anything. I'm founder of a platform, right? We acquired Super Soccer Stars from an amazing owner who started with one class in the Upper West Side, who, when he thought of scale, well, he was in New York, and he had a coach that moved to Austin, so he said, okay, let me start operating in Austin. Yeah. And that's kind of how we grew, and so next thing you know, it was in 13 states. When we bought the business, we're like, okay, this is interesting. And so we tried to make 13 states work really well, and we found to run the business that we wanted to run, we couldn't influence the culture that we wanted to. There's so many people and so much that we needed to give, and so scale really became franchising for us. Mm-hmm. So we just started franchising a brand that's been around for 22 years, and in order for us to scale, the biggest thing is, you said it best, we have to find good people. Yep. Right? People who want to do well and do good for a living, and they can do it by teaching kids how to play soccer. Mm-hmm. I mean, what's better than that? And at the youngest of ages, from 18 months to 6 years old. And so that's really for us is, franchising has been our biggest way to scale, because we want good people to take this great product that we've built for 22 years, and we want to teach them how to do it in their markets, and now we're in 30 states in less than a year. Yeah. So that's what's really allowed us to scale.
Yeah, we're going to come back to a little more on franchising. I want to get into that. But Erika, when you think about 3 different locations, how does Chelsea Piers do that?
Yeah, if I were to summarize succinctly, it's to have a global mindset while being very local. And global mindset meaning, forcing ourselves, again, pick our heads up out of what is a bubble, sometimes a large bubble, 200,000 square feet in Connecticut, but a bubble that is, very dedicated and very driven to be the best of the best, but needing to understand that this is a quickly changing industry, extremely dynamic. We don't have all the answers. We need to partner with others and, open ourselves up and talk to those who are doing different things within these silos to understand, how do we be the best in soccer and gymnastics? How do we create the best development plan and curriculum? That's kind of the global mindset. The local is, every market has a different demographic, has a different age group. We see very little ones, 4 to 5-year-olds, 6 to 7 is kind of our sweet spot in Brooklyn. We see a little bit older, 8 to 10 in Chelsea. How are we catering to who is the child who's there? Who are the parents who are there? What questions do they have? What needs do they have? Soccer, sports in general is a very passionate, but it's a business, a passionate business. So how do we do well but do good? How do we make sure we're staying connected with those who really care? And I think that's on a local level.
Awesome. Adam, want to dive back into the franchise a little bit. You mentioned, hey, the founder moved to Austin, so it's like, sure, that's great. Like, you can do that one-off here and there, but take us through a couple of the steps that you had to take to figure out, okay, franchising is the right way for us to go, and what should people be thinking about that, and when did you really know that Super Soccer Stars was ready for that?
Yeah, I think when the pandemic is when I think it really changed our mindset a little bit, and very people dependent, right? And so an employee is phenomenal, but an employee is very different than somebody who owns that business every single day and has to deal with, coach call outs and unhappy parents or whatever it may be. And so you want somebody who's fully invested in all the time. And so for us, we found that if a really good person left, because people are everything, all of a sudden that territory, you had a blind spot. And so in franchising, when you have an owner, so when somebody decides they want to be in franchising, they're signing a 10-year agreement. So you're getting married to somebody for 10 years, right? And so you're getting married to a lot of people. And so now we are married to at least 50 new franchise owners who are amazing, and they have made a decision that this is what they want to do. We had a great franchise owner just started who had a law practice, right, in Louisiana, and said, I want to quit my law practice. I want to move to Houston, and I want to do this for a living. The reason being is because his wife, unfortunately, he had, divorced, and she passed away, and the only way he could connect to his daughter was through sports, and through soccer specifically. And he said, that's what it gave to me, and if I can give that back to somebody else, like what's better than that? So you have 50, 60 people that their why is so important. So when you have people that are that passionate about something, and then we bring, with franchising, we're bringing all the resources. We're bringing the brand. We're bringing how to run your business. We're bringing the registration platform, the curriculum, the technology, all those things that allow them to not think about anything except how do I start impacting kids positively through soccer. And so that's what franchising has been for us. And now we take this great thing that we've built, and we're in 30 states in less than a year, and growing. So it's exciting for us.
That's great. Justin, I want to shift a little bit to the investment that MLS as a professional league is making in youth sports, and talk about where you think that, why is that so important, and what does MLS as a professional league have to consider about, and what are the reasonings? And feel free, prior to MLS, you came from the NBA working in international basketball operations, so think about how pro leagues are thinking about that investment in youth sports.
Yeah, I think first going back to, so I left the military, and my first job was at the NBA. So really got a really good look at how a league does it right. And looking at the growth internationally across the globe and what the NBA has done, I got firsthand look at that, and to understand what it takes to start academies, grow the game grassroots, and then finished off with the Basketball Africa League and starting off a pro league on another continent. So, and then shifting that to here is Major League Soccer sees a real opportunity through the growth and the excitement around soccer for the next 3 to 5 years. There's going to be a lot of soccer in North America, and so just doubling down on the importance of being invested, being in the communities, developing fans, ensuring that a young boy or girl starts kicking the ball at 4, that they continue throughout their entire life. And so we have a deep responsibility to do that. And then for me especially is to make sure that at the elite level, that selection and deselection does not end your love for the game and love for the sport, that it continues after that.
Yeah, I want to continue on one thing about soccer being, oftentimes the first sport that kids end up playing. And I feel like also the soccer landscape, there's a lot of different organizations out there, right? And so whether it's the U.S. Soccer Federation, then you have MLS, then you have U.S. Youth Soccer, there's all these things. How do you navigate that as the league, and how should people in the audience think about, how can all of these coexist? And Adam, we were talking about beforehand, everybody wants the kids to have a good experience playing soccer, so how can everybody play well together?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just comes down to predictability, a player's predictability of the pathway. That's what it is. Players understanding where they can go, and different organizations have different strengths and have different opportunities. And so it's just ensuring that everybody's clear and honest around what that is. And for MLS Next, we want that to be the elite opportunity for a player that wants to go play pro. It gives a real predictable path to do that, starting at age U13. And so, I'm absolutely excited about Major League Soccer and what we're doing, with the sport and the growth. And we'll continue to try to, work with those who have the same values, and we'll work with anybody to do that, because we understand that, as one of the, the preeminent pro soccer organizations in the world, that that's our chance to give back and be a part of the community.
Yeah, and with MLS announcing MLS Go over the last year of really getting to that grassroots level, how do you think about that? It just, because you're very much oftentimes Super Soccer Shots is that youngest level. So how do you navigate those?
So hopefully we're going to be partnering on that.
Yeah.
Partnering on
There
that
we
very
go.
soon.
We'll hold that too. That we're recording this, so you're good.
But I mean, listen, I think the biggest thing is that, when you talk about all these different pieces and everybody kind of like the different bodies, none of us are really competitors. We're contributors,
Yep.
right? So like if I'm running a Soccer Stars class and Justin's running a Nike New US Sports Camp soccer class, like we're both contributing to positively impacting kids through soccer. And I think that's what's really important. That's what I love about this industry. There's no competitors. I know everybody who's like in our space.
Yeah.
And we'll work together. And I'd say during COVID more than anything, like we were calling each other. Like we were our own support group of figuring out how can we all support each other.
Awesome. Erika, I want to shift now to like the venue and the facilities, right? Like for a long time, youth sports was like, all right, you have your youth sports provider, you're going to run the league, here's the facility, here's like, the tournaments over here. Now everything's converging. How do you see Chelsea Piers fit into this youth sports ecosystem and partnering with youth sports organizations, clubs, things like that?
Yeah, we definitely reconsidered all of that when we opened Brooklyn. Again, very much had two very successful blueprints, and Brooklyn giving us the opportunity to deviate if the market, needed it to.
Yeah.
Again, with the blueprint, it's easy to just do what we've been doing. We had the opportunity to decide, do we want to just be this really behemoth rental facility too, right? Yeah. Where we just allow clubs to come in, rent the space, and we lose our fingerprint, we lose our touch, and the brand that we've developed as well, the curriculum that we've developed, the coaches that we've developed as well. We took a more balanced approach, at least to start with Brooklyn, and to say, let's keep some of that organic development that we've had that I think has really been tried and true in our other locations. It's not to say that we're not a partner, we very much are, but I think we're a partner with PCA, we're a partner with the community board specifically, we're a partner with the schools. Yeah. We have field trips in our schools. We do school contracts and PE programming for some of the schools in all of our locations. This allows us to understand what's important to our end user, the child. What are you talking about in schools? Social and emotional learning. We even have a lot of part-time coaches who are also teachers at some of the schools in the neighborhood. And that keeps a consistency and I think a very organic brand within what we're doing. So, for us, I think being partners within the industry certainly means from a subject matter understanding, having that conversation consistently, picking our heads up outside of the facility, and being a rental partner or a contract partner helps us do that as well, for sure. But we want to keep that organic brand at least a little bit. Yeah.
I want to talk briefly about outside factors or different backgrounds. All of you come from a really unique background and now have shifted. But with Adam, how do you look at, outside of sports, how do you look at franchise and what lessons are you learning about other sectors and how they're looking at franchising? How does that go into how you think about the business?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us in franchising is you have to be tech enabled, right? And so I think there's different franchise spaces, but for us, there's an expectation from the consumer and the franchise that you bring tech. And if that's what we have to worry about, like we're going to get slowed down. I mean, that's what Brian, Jeremy, and these guys do, right? Yeah. We need good tech platforms. So that's an expectation that we have to have. And, I think the other piece for us is, I was thinking about Jeremy and Brian. I get so excited. I'll come back to you. Keep going.
Happens to everybody. Justin, want to talk a little bit about your background, playing lacrosse at West Point, then serving overseas and domestically for 10 years in the Army. What lessons learned do you take from that experience, and now, connecting that to running this national, soccer organization?
Yeah, so I've just been very fortunate to meet the right people and be put in the right position. So I always come from a background, really with West Point, 4-year developmental program. So you're really learning to be a leader so that when I graduated, 18 months after I graduated, I'm in the Middle East, in charge of a platoon, making sure that they come home safely in the middle of a war. And so that helps from my perspective of looking how I lead is like we need to look at how we develop human beings to be the best that they can be for any type of situation. So when we take a look at Next, we're saying, okay, how do you develop the best person to be a potential? So you're looking at technical, tactical, psychosocial, and looking at the best practices. And so, you know, for me, it's always, how can we always grow and get better? We've got to be at the forefront. We can never settle. And so that's, hey, I'll go to Norway and figure that out. I'll see what they're doing. I'll look at, you know, how they look at the rights of children in Denmark and those places. In Africa, what does being part of a culture and tribe mean? So bringing those aspects back to our organization and say, this is how we're going to develop. This is how we're going to create those environments to do that.
Awesome. Erika, you come from 7 years in the finance and corporate strategy and commercial real estate, which that had to have come in handy, building a new facility in Brooklyn. But maybe just for folks in the audience, like, how can they look to other sectors or different background? What skills do they think they need as they're thinking about scaling?
Yeah, I'd like to think it came in handy. I tell myself that at least. No, it did. You know, I think again, it's that remaining global but staying local. There is, if you are operating a facility, yes, there's huge benefits to understanding what trends are happening in the real estate industry. If you have a club or a program, understanding though what are those different perspectives, right, of sort of that end user, of a potential partner. It helps the overall industry. It helps the community. You know, to Adam's point, where we can just work together more collaboratively, understanding the different angles and end game that we all kind of have. So.
Yep, awesome. One last question, quick answers from each of you. Changing models of youth sports, where are we going? Just a couple of sentences on what you're anticipating in the space that you each work in.
Yeah, I think for us, it's access. You look at, you know, how you get access across all of North America and find more players, keep them in the system. And one initiative that we just launched is partnering with a company called AI Scout, and that's to ensure that we use AI in a phone for any player to be seen. And so just using new technology to then help us have better conversations and develop better programs for that. So, you know, mixing that blend of technology that allows us to have access to, you know, more people, more kids, more opportunities.
That's great. Adam.
Yeah, for us, it's sports and fun, right? They have to get the same dopamine rush that they get on TikTok and Instagram as they do from our soccer classes, right?
Yeah.
And so we've got to make sure that it is fun, exciting. We're meeting the kids where they are. We're meeting the customers where they are, and that we're bringing that fun so we can create just more players, more healthy lifestyles. So they go through the player pathway. Like we're focused on the whole child, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing. That's what we got to bring.
Awesome. Final words, Erika?
Final words. Keeping a global mindset, but remembering that sports will forever be personal and forever local. With that, you know, we have created a pathway where a 4-year-old can leave Chelsea Piers as an 18-year-old who's developed just a whole lot of life lessons from rec sports, only on the rec pathway, or they're on the top travel soccer team and, you know, D1 scholarship somewhere. So we can do both, but keeping a very local, personal mindset.
Awesome. Love it. Erika, Adam, Justin, thanks so much. Round of applause for